Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash, your weekly source for any and all things photography. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode, I actually don't know because you didn't write it down.
The title, Slightly Jet-Lagged.
So we are back from Italy. Italy.
That's it. That's our weekend review. Italy.
Yeah. So Italy was pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun meeting and hanging out with the McKay Photography Academy team. They were really warm and welcoming to us, and all of the students were as well.
The participants, yep.
Yeah, so we had a really great time. If you haven't watched the vlogs that we did from there, you should definitely watch those. I make lots of weird
Yawns?
faces. Yeah,
You make
there's
a lot of
some pretty
yawns.
epic
We
yawns.
were really tired, you know, most of those evenings, just because we had been exploring and going all day long. I've got some really cool ideas. Well, first off, you're still going to see a couple more things from Italy coming in the next couple of weeks. I've got more videos. I've got the one video where we take you all out on a little bit of a hike. In the future, Iceland, some of the other trips that David and I are talking about, I want to bring you more in the field content. Where are we? What are we doing? You saw a lot of the inside of hotel rooms.
Which isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And you heard us discuss and you saw we shared some pictures and things, but I really want to take you some of the places that we're going, talk about why we're there, some tips. You know, there's just so much learning that happens for me, for the participants of the course, both in travel and photography, because hey, guess what? It's a travel photography safari. So that's what you have to look forward to in the future.
Yeah, we're excited to be working with the McKay Academy team.
David and Allie and others.
Yeah, more next year. So
that's right. Stay
really
tuned.
Looking forward to that.
That's right.
Yeah.
What else are we looking forward to?
So, I don't know. What are we looking forward to?
I thought we were going to do our announcement now.
Okay, so we have a big announcement.
Can I tell them that we put this in the last vlog, but then because we don't always know how...
I am not very comfortable sharing too much of my personal life with lots of people. You know, we like to keep
not lots of people.
No, I know, but you know, we try.
Friends.
We like to keep this on topic more or less.
More or less.
You know, there are some things that might be entertaining or not, depending on what your humor is like.
You can make the argument that this is on topic, though, for many reasons.
Okay, so in short, while in Italy, we got engaged.
We did.
And I don't really know what more to say about it. I'm very excited.
Hold up your hand so they can see that there's a ring.
There's a ring.
Now hold the other side so they can see that it's taped.
There's a rubber band because it's too big and I need to get it sized.
Right. Allie McKay was very nice and loaning us some gaffing tape early on to make sure that it fit and not fell off. It was really exciting. I'm sure, as most of the McKay team asked once we told them, you know, show us the pictures or the video of it happening.
We didn't take a video.
But we didn't.
And I'm glad it happened that way. I don't know. One of the things that I don't know if we're going to keep, you are going to want to cut this out or not, but being in front of the camera for me and talking to people, you know, or being in sort of a somewhat public medium is not the most comfortable thing for me. So it has taken me a lot of time to get used to it. And, you know, I think that the more I do it, the more and more comfortable I feel. But, yeah, I mean, so for us to share that with you guys is...
a big step forward?
Sure. All right. Well, that's enough.
Enough of that exciting personal news. But let's make the argument of why it is appropriate to this podcast. One, we do this podcast together.
Sure.
So, sure. 2, we're both photographers.
Yeah.
3, we're both wedding photographers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So don't ask us any like follow-up questions about anything that comes after getting engaged because we haven't gotten that far.
That's right.
And we probably won't for a little while. But okay, I get it. It's relevant.
Okay, good.
All right. So you have a note about wanting to talk about Italy camera stuff in the weekend review. Did you? I know there's more stuff that we're going to talk about later in the podcast, but...
No, let's just jump right into it right now. So we want to just take a few moments and kind of dig into the photos I took and talk a little bit about what I really ended up using or using to make the pictures that I'm happy with, because I think that is telling to some degree. And yeah, with that. So, you know, Lightroom is wonderful for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why we love Lightroom. One of them is when you're in your library, you have the ability to do all kinds of filtering of a group of photos based on metadata. All kinds of metadata, including the cameras you shot with. So let's break it down first. I took about 2,800 images over a 2.5, 3 weekish period. You can see that 1,600 were with the 5D Mark III, and about 1,000 were with the 5100, the little Sony A5100. The unknown camera, those are video files, not enough metadata in the video files for Lightroom to be able to tell what they are. And those are actually video files from the 5D Mark III. I did a lot more video files, but they've all been, most of them have been moved outside of Lightroom, so it's not aware of those. So if we break it down to the lenses used, 24 to 105, clear winner here as far as overall lens, and the fact that it was on the Canon, which had more pictures in general. 1,343 images. 35 got used a little bit. The 50 prime got used a little bit. Then we have 2 lenses for the Sony. The 20 pancake, I really didn't bring that out a whole lot because I mostly really wanted to make sure that I could get good handheld video out of the Sony, and I wanted image stabilization for that, and the 20 pancake doesn't have that, but the little 16 to 50 does. And this was the lens that was on the Sony most of the time. And I called it my little travel camera. I did break out the 70 to 200 a little bit. Man, it's a heavy lens, and I certainly never used it at f4 or wider that I think. So in the future, this lens is not likely to come along. And then we brought the 85 around. 16 pictures, just 16. Should have left that at home, absolutely. Unknown lens, that corresponds to the video files. And you will see some of that soon. And then you can take a look at the focal lengths. I published in the vlog that little chart of all of the different focal lengths that gave you an idea. But here's where I think it starts to get interesting, is if we come down here and we filter a little bit, and let's say all of my 1-star images. So now these are images that are worth sharing out. Very quickly, my number drops. I got about a 10% keeper rate as far on this trip. 380 images. 200 of those were the 5D Mark III, 166 were the A5100. Now I have a full review coming of the A5100. I believe it'll be out next week. It just got some editing to do on it. I also have a full review coming of the Sigma 24 to 105. I think that might also be out next week, or if certainly not the week after. You can see that 24 to 105 made the bulk of those images, and 16. This kind of mirrors the overall relationship. If we take it up to the 2 stars, these are nicer images that I'm likely to share out on Facebook. Actually, I don't know why that one has 2 stars. And that one should just have 1 star. Well, okay, I'm not gonna go through and start restarting stuff now. You can see that at the 2-star level, it is pretty close to being split. Those of you who followed along in the vlog, you know that pretty quickly on, I really felt like carrying all of this gear was bringing my mood down. When I had my Think Tank backpack and we went out for the day to Manarola, Rio Maggiore on the Cinque Terre region, it was nice to have this high quality gear. I did like to use. The big difference for me was not so much the quality between the 5D Mark III and the Sony, because honestly in these kind of scenic pictures there's not that much difference, but it was being able to use a much higher quality lenses than just the kit lens, and to be able to use my filters that I have for those other lenses. The circular polarizer to really bring out the colors, kind of cut through the haze, and the neutral density filter, which I used for probably my best public enjoyed shot of the trip of the town of Manarola at an evening. It wasn't quite dark enough yet, so I threw on the neutral density filter to get a really slow shutter speed to really smooth out the water and get some kind of cool effects down there. Those are things I could not do with the Sony at all. So, what's my point? Well, let's go up to 3 stars. I'm down to 42, and you can see that the Canon 5D Mark III's got 26 of my 3-star images. And here they are, and here's the one I was just talking about. Yeah, let's go through real quick and just see. Including Nutella Head, that one, which I think you should make your profile picture.
Nutella.
And then on the Sony side, you can see some very nice pictures. I like this picture a lot. I'm very happy with that picture. And then walking around in Rome. Very capable camera, very capable. These are all from the Sony with this little APS-C size sensor. And of course, the selfie cam abilities of it, having that little, was nice. Watch my full review though to, the trade-off of having that type of screen versus an EVF. What do you want? Okay, so, well, I'm not talking to you, Google. So, sum up these thoughts. I haven't spent enough time really thinking about it yet, but for travel, lighter is better. Is there something I wish I'd brought along with me? Well, I tell you what, I would have been really happy to carry around the Sony more if I'd had a slightly higher quality lens, especially one that I could fit some of my filters on. I really would have had no problems with this. There weren't super low light pictures where I needed to go to really high ISO where the 5D Mark III would have shined. Actually, I keep pointing this as the 5D Mark III. It's not. That's the 70D. So,
yeah, I mean, I think one thing to keep in mind when traveling is that you want to also be able to not just capture things, but also enjoy yourself. And when you travel, there are a lot of things that can happen that can be unexpected. For example, there were times where we were unable to find a taxi on a whim. When we were walking on the streets, so we had to walk back and forth several blocks after, going out shooting at night. So if you're carrying a lot of gear, it's going to be very, very, very uncomfortable. Yeah. And yeah, it's going to take away from your enjoyment for sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think that if you had brought less gear or fewer pieces of gear, I don't think you would have been totally disappointed. Right. I thought the pictures that you took with the Sony were really great. There were a couple of pictures that you did take. Did you take that picture of the woman looking out her window with her dog with the 7-8200?
I did.
Okay,
yep.
So maybe it wouldn't have lent.
But at f6.3. So I'm not saying that I have unlimited money and should have bought and brought different things for this trip, but the fact that an f4 lens here would have been absolutely fine. The 70-200 f4 is way less heavy.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I could have even brought my 70-300 f3.5 to 5 or 5.6 to 6.3. Yeah. That would have worked here too. I'm even shooting an aperture f6.3.
So anyway,
consider this.
Yeah. What are you gonna?
I was just going to say, consider what we're saying.
Oh, okay.
Traveling lighter. For most of the type of pictures you're going to make when you're traveling, a lot of what I carried around the Sony was to just kind of document. Here I am taking a picture of this, not necessarily epic photos. And then there were a couple of places where I knew we were going to go and my goal would be make epic photos and I did want the bigger camera. What would be the perfect travel camera?
I think there's no such thing.
There is no such thing, but I have to say something like the Sony A7, which is just a little bit bigger than this. You have a limited lens selection, but certainly good enough lenses for general travel, much lighter. Yes, those lenses are a little bit heavy. I hear this argument a lot and I nod my head yes to it often, that, you know, on those nicer full frame mirrorless cameras, I'm getting the move along sign. Yes, I know, thank you.
Wrap things up.
On those mirrorless, larger full frame mirrorless cameras, the lenses are big and are heavy and they offset some of the weight savings, but it's some of the weight savings. And if you're talking about a body that weighs 1 pound versus one that's 2.5, and that lens is a little bit less than some of the other lenses, it starts to add up in a good, appreciable to your back, to your shoulder way. Those is what I think you should think about. Yeah.
So I think we said a lot on that topic.
We did.
And if you want to hear more and you want to know more about what I brought, go ahead and watch that last vlog because I talk a lot more about it, including the app on my phone that I use to shoot.
Yep. I'll just add it. We do still want to try to do another video of other little things we brought that we really liked. This little Joby tripod with the little magnet feet. Really loved this. Used it a lot. It's sturdy enough to hold up this little camera, and so think about this. Plus the magnet feet let me put it up on railings and things like that. Trigger trap I used a bunch with the 5D Mark III, which was really nice. The GoPro got used for some time lapses, but it didn't need to. Oh, although the Amalfi Coast time lapse, that wouldn't have been able to really be used for anything else. So we're gonna talk more about this GoPro in a minute. It's a video camera. Reader question. Okay.
So let's move on to news now.
Let's move on to news.
We have a headline here. Canon vows to hone on high-end camera market after earnings sales drop due to smartphones. So, all right. I feel like we've talked about this before.
I mean, you don't even need to open up this link. Yes, and this is one of those headlines that comes around every once in a while, and it's a little bit goofy for a couple reasons. Well, first off, of course they're going to say this. The question here is, I don't think we really care that Canon says that they're basically not going to abandon their DSLR market. Of course you're not, Canon. Of course you're not. It's clear that smartphones are slaying your point and shoot and your bottom of the line point and shoots kind of things. Because look at the newest iPhone. We don't even have to say anything more than that. So what we want to know is, and we were talking about this when we were going for a walk yesterday, what is the next iteration of the high-end Canon cameras going to look like? You know, we have the rumors that the T6i might be mirrorless, but I'm talking, you know, the 5D Mark IV, the 6D Mark II, which there's rumors now that the 6D is discontinued. It's actually listed as discontinued in some places.
Wow, that was quick.
That was fairly quick for a camera at that level, but not unheard of quick. So hopefully we'll hear something soonish. I don't think at Photo Explo, which is basically right now. But what will these cameras look like? Are they going to push the envelope like Canon has in the past, like they did with the 5D Mark III? It was fairly groundbreaking in its quality and its video features. And since then, we're repeating ourselves on other podcasts. They've fallen behind. They have wonderful lenses. The cameras aren't bad, but they're not cutting edge. Are these next iteration going to be cutting edge, or are they just going to kind of stay the line?
Well, I think that based on the sort of things that you've been reviewing and the news articles that we have been talking about on the podcast, I think that Canon has been really focusing in on, you know, what do you call those lenses? Like the pancake and
crop sensor?
Yeah, crop sensor lenses, and
like
you know, the
40D
70D and the 7D. And so I feel like a lot of their energy, and you know, their huge new cinema line, you know, of cameras and lenses, that I feel like they have been putting a lot of energy into that. So, I mean, I know that, I'm sure that they have, you know, different teams of people working on all of their different sort of you know, categories of cameras that they release. But at the same time, I feel like, you know, the digital cameras have sort of taken, you know, what's the correct?
I'm not sure where you're going.
Well, I feel like they've sort of have taken a backseat to, you know, like the cinema cameras and the cinema lenses and all of these new crop sensor lenses that they've put out along with their cameras. So yeah, I mean, you know, Nikon, we were talking about this yesterday, they have just released the D750.
Yep.
Or the,
Getting
this
very
D7.
Good reviews.
Great reviews, full frame. There's a ladybug in here.
There is a lady too.
There
actually.
are 2 ladybugs in here.
And they're very excited about the video lights.
So, yeah, I am really interested because I shoot Canon to see what it is that they're going to come up with next. The 5D Mark III is a little bit old. There are a couple things about it that annoy me. And I do hope that if they do release a new camera that it comes...
Well, they will.
Well, when they do.
Yes.
That it comes with a new sensor because...
It has to.
Yeah.
It has to. If it didn't, would you consider switching?
I don't know. I feel like the whole idea of selling everything I have and switching to Nikon is a little too...
Or Sony.
Switching to Nikon is a little too... I don't know. I don't feel
Why do you not even consider Sony?
I don't like the interface of Sony. We've talked about this before. I don't like it. I can't get used to it. It's just cumbersome, and the cameras are not really that fast. They're not fast enough for, and I'm not talking about shutter speed or frame rate. I'm talking about it being able to keep up and me being able to
focus in low light conditions and fire off several frames in focus.
Right, yeah. Or just, you know, being able, like me having an optical viewfinder allows me to have my camera up to my eye at all times, and there's no point in time when the screen is blacked out, you know, except for when I press the shutter. So I think having an optical viewfinder for somebody who's like constantly trying to anticipate moments, you know, before they happen is really, really crucial. So, you know, if there's any sort of lag with a digital viewfinder, you know, it can cause you to miss some stuff. So that's why I'm not, and...
Okay.
What?
Well, I'll just say you sound a little bit like you're stuck in this paradigm of only optical is okay, where I think we have some, well, I know, we have some viewfinders that I've found to be very good and could happily shoot a wedding with. The low light focus is still an issue, but in a generation or two, both those viewfinders and those low light focus is going to be solved.
Right. So then I'll give you my thoughts once that is, you know, and I'm not saying that digital viewfinders are not great or awesome or better than optical viewfinders in many ways. I mean, they're brighter. They show you exactly what you're going to get. But at the same time, I just don't feel like they're as reliable at the moment as optical viewfinders are. Okay. So that's just my thoughts on that. But yeah, I don't think, I mean, I hate the idea of having to switch. So I'm just hoping that Canon does,
right.
You know.
And that, I think, is what Canon is banking on for at least part of their strategy.
Sure.
People have bought our lenses, they don't want to switch. Or people want our lenses, so they're going to buy our bodies, even if they're not the most cutting edge.
Well.
Again, repeating ourselves, we've said that a lot. We like the Canon cameras we have. We love the 5D Mark III, but it's certainly starting to get a little jealous looking at something like the D750, which is cheaper. It's not perfect and it's not better in all ways, don't get me wrong. And again, the 7D Mark II for the money's got some amazing autofocuses and systems in there. But, you know, I'm seeing shots out of the D750 from Nikon. 12,800 looks usable. That is nice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that about 5D Mark III. 6400 with a little noise reduction is usable, so we're talking about a stop advantage. It always sounds big, like 12,800, wow! But you know, in reality, it's only about a stop of light from 6400. But when we're talking about buying lenses that are $2,000 because we want the best absolute performance, it's a little frustrating to putting it on a body that we're looking around and seeing other bodies that would certainly do better and cost a little less.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on to our next news piece.
Yep.
So this is an interview with astronaut photographer
That's right. This is from, who is this from? This is, well, Giuseppe, I think, submitted it. It is Brendan Van Son. He runs this website called, I don't know what it's called. It's like Adventure Photographer or something. And he got a chance to ask Chris Hadfield a question. Now, Chris Hadfield is an awesome astronaut photographer. And I just want to just point this out briefly. I mean, here are some of the pictures he's taken. He's been stationed on the space station, the International Space Station, for some period of time, and he has produced some amazing images during that time, which you can see here. And it's really cool. The question is, they have to use longer shutter speeds sometimes for some of these images. And you think about the station rotating above the Earth and the Earth moving, how do they get sharp images? And it's really cool because in the interview, it's very similar to our trying to pan and get a sharp image of a Vespa scooter or something going by. They basically pan, but remember, there's no gravity up there, so the camera is floating. So it can be floating here, and they just kind of tap the front. And they have practiced, and he said they don't always get sharp shots, but he said something like, 1 out of every 3 or 4, they'll hit it just right, and it will rotate at just the right speed to keep that long exposure and keep the subject in the same point in the plane, and it'll be in focus.
That's very cool.
So it's really cool to think about. And so I'll put a link to that down below. You should go watch it. It's about 5 minutes long, and yeah, it's just fun.
Really interesting.
Yep.
Cool. So let's move on to our discussion now.
What are we discussing today?
So the first thing we're going to discuss, I'm just going to go ahead and open this link right now because the title doesn't... okay, so the first article is from Photocritic. It's Let Wedding Photographers Do Their Jobs, or Why Can't You Expect a Disc of Unedited Images on the Cheap? And so the article, and I read an article very similar to this. I think it was the same one. Yeah, it was the same one based on the photos. And it sort of makes the analogy of a wedding photographer kind of being like an author. Us as consumers and readers of the book, we don't expect, or we would never expect an author to give us an unedited version of the book. It has to be edited and kind of polished before it goes to print and then is sold to people. So that's sort of how wedding photography is in a way, because we take a lot of photos, but we are in a very large way trying to tell the story of a day. So there are some things that need to be cut out in order to sort of tell the story in a nice way that showcases the strongest photographs of the day without sacrificing, part of the story. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with that. I think that people will still ask for a disc of unedited. One sort of going on a tangent, I've realized that I haven't been asked for a disc of raw, unedited wedding images in a very, very, very long time. And I think that's because I am marketing myself as a photographer who has been established for a while. So I feel like once you market yourself as a photographer who has some sort of authority and who knows what they're doing,
and has a body of work that they can look at and say, those are the pictures I want.
People aren't going to ask you for that. People aren't going to question your policies for the most part.
I'm sure there are people, and I'm sure you will still get asked at some point in the future.
Yeah. But I used to, when I first started, I used to get asked that question a lot. So people would ask me this frequently. And now it doesn't happen anymore. And, there came a point when I was asked that question, and then I was ready to say, no, there's no way that I'm ever going to give you a disc of unedited images or raw images for you to edit, even after I've edited them. Just kind of stuck to my guns. So, yeah, and then on the other hand, if there is a photographer that wants to do that and negotiate that for whatever reason, that's fine with them, that's fine too. I don't think that you're doing the client any favors. I think they're more likely to appreciate your work if you actually call it down, curate it, and then edit it. But, to each their own, I guess.
Right. The one counter argument is that maybe a picture that doesn't mean anything to you or look like anything special to you gets called out, whereas if the bride saw that, she'd be like, oh, look at my uncle in the background doing such and such.
Yeah, that's fair. But at the same time, you know, how can you make sure that you aren't cutting out something that's really important to the couple? Like you can't ever be certain that you're not going to be cutting something out. So are you just going to show them everything for fear that you may have missed one picture? Or are you going to show them a strong set of images that you've called yourself? You know, and that's where communication before the wedding day comes into play. You know, and it's really important for them to really tell you what are the most important things for them, or for you to capture for them. So that way, you know, you can't make sure. And if you've been there, you know, if you are in the, you know, there present, capturing that moment, then you're going to be able to tell when you're calling whether or not that's a really important image for the couple. So, but you know, you will run the risk of omitting something that they may have liked. But you know, even then, if it's, are you paying attention?
I am. Yes. I was going to go try to find one more counter argument.
But even then, I will say that even if it's a photo that might be really important to them, but it's not a great photo, it's not a strong photo, and you don't want to show it, unless it's something super crucial about the day, like the first kiss or something like that, you don't have to show that. You don't have to show that as part of the final call. I mean, you have creative authority over what you present to the client, and they sort of, you know, they're expecting that from you. So that's what I think, and that's kind of what this article was
I'd also say
too.
that I think sometimes people don't know what they're asking for when they ask for a raw. They don't necessarily know that it's unedited. They just have heard somebody say, make sure you get the raws from that photographer.
Right.
Because,
right.
And yeah.
Like there was a couple that I had worked with, you know, for other kinds, it was commercial photography, but they had hired a photographer for their wedding to do like just black and white photography. And, you know, they were telling me that they got the black and white edited pictures, but then the photographer also gave them the raw images. And I was like, really? He gave you the raw images? Like, what are you going to do with that? Like,
right.
And they're probably never going to do anything with them. You know, you don't really need the raw images. If you have full-size JPEG files, you should be good for a very long time. So,
yeah, that sounds good. Okay.
All right.
Moving on to a similar, well, not similar. Moving on to another, or are we going to put that in?
Well, more wedding photography stuff.
More wedding photography stuff.
We're all about the
Swooping
wedding
around.
photography.
Yes. And that means you talking more. I feel rusty. Just let me let you
I
know
do
that.
too, yeah. I'm
Even
sure
though we did
they've
the vlogs.
noticed. I'm sure they've noticed. Excuse me, I'm sure they've noticed.
They probably stopped watching. Only 3 people are watching right now.
Okay. Should you offer unlimited wedding coverage? And this was from Roy, right? Yep. He posted this on Facebook. So I sort of skimmed through this article really quickly, and what this author is saying is he used to not offer unlimited wedding coverage. He used to offer coverage in hourly increments, so like 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. And then people started asking for unlimited coverage, and he said no, and no, and no, and no, and then realized that he started losing clients. So he's changed his mind and is encouraging other photographers that if they're losing clients because of this, that, you know, listen to your audience, listen to what your customer's asking for. And then he goes on to say that if, you know, he thinks about it and he's like, if I was hiring a wedding photographer, I would want unlimited coverage for my wedding. So he's sort of putting himself in his client's shoes and thinking, yeah, this makes sense to me and this makes sense. So from that, you know, it sounds like it's something that makes sense to him a lot and that he really supports and, you know, he can really stand behind. So I think that, you know, if you really believe that this is a change that'll make sense for you in your business, totally do it. But I know plenty of people that still do hourly coverage and that have successful businesses. It's just a matter of sticking to your guns and explaining to people why it is that you do things your way. So sort of turning the negative, which is I don't offer unlimited coverage, to a positive and saying, you know, you don't want me there all the time. You're going to have thousands of pictures to look through and it's going to be really overwhelming. So, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I don't offer unlimited wedding coverage. I offer full day coverage, which is different in the sense that we're not going to be there from morning. We're not going to be there till the end of the wedding.
Well, sometimes we are.
Sometimes we have been, yeah. And that's the thing about full day coverage is that it's flexible so that if things run late, the couple doesn't have to be worried that we have to leave and we don't have to bill them afterwards. But it's also not all day. And that just, the idea of shooting a wedding for more than 10 or 12 hours.
Which we've done.
Which we've done is just unpleasant. I would never want to be.
It's a bit grueling.
Yeah, I mean, I won't ever want to do it. Never. I do not. And the truth of the matter is that, you know, you don't really need, I don't see anybody needing pictures from like them waking up and eating breakfast on their wedding day. You know, it's like, it's a little too much.
Right. So we usually arrive about an hour before they finish getting ready, and we stay through the major events in the night. I think, you know, it's how many dancing pictures can you take?
Yeah.
We make sure those main events get taken, and then a solid hour, maybe 2, if there are different fun kind of things happening dancing-wise going on. But otherwise, after a while, you just start to end up with 200, 300, 400 pictures of people dancing.
Yeah, and they're the same picture over and over again. Right. And couples
the same people dance.
Right, and you know, they really don't need this. So, you know, it's kind of just your job to tell people, like, you don't want hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pictures of, you know, your one uncle dancing all night. And, you know, that you get 1 or 2 and get the idea, and then that's good. So.
Okay.
But did you have some rebuttals?
No,
oh,
I don't.
Okay.
No, that was the last article, and I just had the one. That's all.
So I've been talking a lot, I guess.
You have. So let's move on to reader questions, and I'll start with the first one. Well, Jill wants to know if she can have this picture of you.
So Jill is one of my closest friends, and she is the sweetest person ever.
And she wants a picture of you with a Nutella head. This little gelato shop had multiple big jars of Nutella. This one felt like it was full of water. I'm not sure why.
It was full of water.
Okay. Simi has a great question that I think is a heavy question, and I'll try to answer it now, but somebody said, you know, this would be an interesting video. It'd be interesting to unpack this in a little bit more detail. Let's see how well I can tackle it without so much preparation. Share with us the transition from your day job to your current full-time passion of photography, podcasting, reviewing, and instruction. What has been the challenges and some of your successes? Well, let's start with challenges. The first, I think, is a challenge for anybody doing anything on their own, and that is you are your own boss. And you can choose to be a wonderful boss or a terrible boss, but you have to live with... Is that confusing?
No.
Okay. You have to live with your actions. I try to walk the line in the middle, but I end up feeling guilty often, especially going from having basically 2 incomes. Money plays a big part of this. I was making a good income as being a registrar at a small college, and I was making a fairly decent secondary income from doing the stuff I was doing over the last couple of years. Now I only have the secondary income, and it is not growing as quickly as I expected, putting full day's work into it. That's okay. I'm not worried yet, but I am a little surprised. And so there's this feeling, being my own boss, of saying, I should be working right now. At 7 o'clock at night, I did work for most of the day, but I'm in, you know, most of the day was doing stuff I liked, and I'd like to go answer some people's questions right now. And so relaxing for me in the last couple of months has been difficult. Now, we did just come back from Italy. It was a fantastic trip.
It was a fun fun trip where we got to experience a lot of things, but it was by no means, you know, relaxing.
Right.
Like we worked a lot and we enjoyed ourselves doing it. We were doing, I mean, what an office to do to work from, you know, but it was work.
That's right. And I think for the other participants, you know, when there was downtime, we were, well, exploring more.
Trying to see as much as we could.
That's right. Or making a vlog and talking about it and kind of talking about what we're going to talk about on the vlog. So finding that work-life balance, what's the new term? What's the new term? Work-life integration?
Yeah.
Work-life integration. Because it is stuff that I enjoy, but at the same time, it is still work. And there are times where I want to sit plop down on the couch and watch something without feeling guilty like I should be answering questions. And huge thanks to Ruby and Roy, who really have just been answering bajillions of questions. I really am going to answer less. As much as I enjoy that, it's really hard to find the time to make content if I'm answering those questions. But I will still be in there some. So that's the big challenge. And the other big challenge is kind of to come up with the priorities for this channel. The reviews bring people in. The fans, you guys like these podcasts, which take a long time and a lot of editing, but that doesn't bring much people in. But I am working on some sponsors and have some exciting news, I think, soon. And so trying to figure out where to spend my time. As I just said, I'm going to be answering questions less and really focusing on creating content. And no secrets, I hope to have a package of videos that are available for purchase sometime soon that will help people get started. And that's what I'd really like to concentrate on. The successes, I mean, there's been a lot of them. So the money is certainly not going up, but look, I have very flexible time.
And don't say that it's not going up. It's just not at the rate that, you know, one would hope.
Well, it's not profitable at the moment. It's not profitable. I didn't expect it to be right away, but, and Liam's upset about that too. So as successes, the flexibility and adventures like Italy that we just had the opportunity to do, with more of those coming. There are some other things happening that are very exciting. So lots of numbers are good, and it's really fun to do something that I love.
Yeah, and you know, for me, from a wedding photographer perspective, you know, I would say that one of the biggest challenges was having to give up photography as my hobby, you know, for it becoming my job, which is something that you should consider if you're thinking about turning your hobby or your passion, well, I guess your hobby, into your job and your career. You know, that's something that, you know, you may really enjoy doing this for fun, but once you have the pressure added of making money and make a living for yourself, having to do this, it may not be as fun. So,
Liam missed
cat
us.
wrangling. He has missed us a lot.
He actually has missed us.
So we're being nice.
Being nice.
And letting him be a part of it.
Better stay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, successes, you know.
Right.
Meeting awesome people, getting to travel.
Yep. And, you know, I'd like to talk more about this in the future and talk a little bit, especially when I feel better at it. What is it? It's October. It's into October. June, July, August, September, October. Almost 6 months.
Yeah, that's hardly...
We're working hardly expert time.
Well, yeah, I mean...
No. Right. I mean, part of the profit issue is health insurance, even with Obamacare. But we'll go there. It's just expensive. That's a lot of money.
Are we getting political now?
Well, no, not political, just financial. Okay. Roger wants to know how you got your head out of that giant jar of Nutella. She didn't actually
very carefully
stick her head in it. It's just behind it, Roger. Mark wants to summarize equipment we've taken. What would we have left home? The 70 to 200 I would have left home. Angela, we shared our special news. So did Ubaldo. Roger wants to know our interests on, or our views on watermarks, sizes, positions, and the degree of transparency.
So we've discussed this before, but I will say that I have recently changed my policy slightly on watermarking my images. So anything that I put up on my website and everything that I put up on Facebook and on the blog does not get watermarked, but anything that goes to the client for sharing on social media, to vendors for sharing on social media and their websites does get watermarked. Because I've realized that people, as much as you tell them, they don't actually link back to your website, even when you ask. One, because they don't know, or they forget, or they simply don't want to. So I decided that I would just take matters into my own hands and watermark my images. So that's what I've been doing. Just a really, really tiny watermark. I do a vertical watermark with just my name and then a copyright symbol on the right-hand side of the photo. It's really tiny, and the opacity set to something like 70%. You know, something really, really subtle that if somebody were to, you know, wants to look for it, then they can do, you know, they have the information there.
Okay. How about people that are not selling their photos? Or, well, you said your photos that are going on the blog, you're not putting them on because they're already on your own space.
Yeah.
Are you worried about someone scraping them off there?
No, because, you know, usually people that want to display images, they ask for them. If somebody's going to steal an image of mine to use on their website for whatever reason, they're going to do it whether or not there's a watermark on it. You know, they're going to crop the watermark out, and they're going to, like, Photoshop it out. So I have no control over that. So I'd rather my images look clean and the focus be entirely on the image than to have my watermark repeatedly on every single image that is on my website and my blog. So yeah, I can't speak for everybody, but I do strongly believe that, you know, a really big watermark or something that isn't super subtle, anything that has some sort of like identity, visual, logo on there is going to detract from people looking at your subject and at your image. So if you're going to do a watermark, do a really subtle watermark.
Keep it reasonably sized.
Yeah, or don't do it at all, and then just, you know, you just have to assume that people are going to want to steal your images if they do. And a watermark is not going to stop them from doing that. So.
Right. And there's a couple cool services coming that help you figure out whether or not people are swiping your images. And TinEye is one that you can kind of use in the meantime. But so, yeah, I feel very similar. I don't watermark my stuff. Yeah. And I agree, Roger. I think there's a lot of times I see watermarks done in a way that distract from the actual picture. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think... Oh, Danny wants to know about using GoPros as a little video camera. Not an action camera, just regular travel camera. Well, this is the Hero 3 Plus. The new Hero 4 Black, really nice, 4K, good quality. The silver version has an LCD back, but the black version doesn't. So a major downside is you can't see what you're shooting. And I do have a video where I show kind of the different qualities and the different views, because you can say wide, narrow, medium, and narrow. And so, Danny, I'll try to point you to that. If not, just search my channel for GoPro. It should come up. You know, I lean towards no. It's not a great travel camera because you can't see what you're shooting unless you get the LCD back. But even when you do, battery life is terrible. And you have very limited controls, and audio is just kind of so-so. When we're talking about $399 to $499, and also you got that wide angle, you can shoot at the more narrow angles, but I think you're better off with a nice, excuse me, point and shoot. One, you know, that's good. They're going to be, Liam is not cooperating. They're going to be a little bit bigger, but it's going to give you a screen. Some of those have articulating screens. You got stereo audio options. You have a screen, as I said, to be able to see. And it's just going to be a little bit higher quality, especially in lower light. That said, if you really want to do time lapses and some video, and you do want the fact that it comes in a waterproof case and it is this small, you know, if those other things appeal to you besides just a travel camera, then yes. But just travel camera, I think there's better options from decent point and shoots out there in the similar price range.
Yep.
Yep.
So is that it?
I think that's it. You know, I just wanted to mention one other thing, because I always like to mention one other thing. Those of you who have been watching, I flew the DJI Phantom in Italy with David. And then I came back, Steve and I, another photographer in the area, a wonderful photographer, recently bought a similar setup. And I went and flew with him some too. And just reiterate, people had asked on the vlog, you know, how easy are they to fly? They are really easy to fly. I mean, like for starting out, Steve and I were joking. The thing is, you're going to crash it. It's not if, it's when. Eventually, something's going to happen and you're going to have a crash. But as far as like taking off, pushing it forward, backward, left, right, super easy. And here's what's the amazing technology. Those of you who have them, you know this. They have the GPS in the little brain of the thing. And when that is on and you let go of the controls, it stays in place. It can have a 15, 20 mile an hour wind blowing against it, but it will stay there like it's attached to the ground. It's amazing. And then Steve's actually has a little switch. You can turn that off, so then it will let the wind blow it. And so, and that actually, Steve and I were talking, Steve said that, you know, you can get some really cool shots that way because it's a very smooth kind of motion as it gets blown downwind. Probably not at 15 miles an hour, but at 5 or 10.
Right, that would be
gonna, yeah,
really
it's gonna
fast.
drift around. So they're a lot of fun. I think, though, to really take advantage of it, you do want that first-person view, which does add to the costs and things like that. But it's cool, and we'll be talking more about that. I have a video from 2 videos, I think, coming that I shot with David when we were in Italy, and I'd like to go out with Steve again and shoot some video with his in this area. We have no idea how long this is going because that crashed, and we just got to hope that it's all recording back there. Rusty. And we might not be back next week because I have travel. I'm visiting friends and family. And I don't know if I'll be back in time to get the podcast done. We'll try.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our best.
But if not, we will definitely be back the week after. We will be having a critique going out on Monday, yep. So look out for that. And there's some other videos I'm sure that will come out next week, probably from Italy, just kind of...
there's some more content coming, yes. And contests, sweepstakes, giveaways.
Ooh.
I've been teasing those, but they are really coming close now. And I'm really excited about some of the products that will be part of the giveaways leading up to the holidays. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Italy recap?
We don't Italy recap. That's the most boring title I ever suggest.
We're back.
We are back.
I mean, we have been gone for a while. So, I think we should do that.
Triumphant returned?
No.
Slightly jet lagged? Slightly jet lagged.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Sometimes you come up with things that aren't super cheesy and ridiculous.
Thank you.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another photo mishmash. I messed up already. Okay, so we're starting. Why are you all short?
Yeah, because we're used to the fact that when we did the vlogs, you didn't sit on a chair that's like 1.5 feet taller. That's why I'm short now, because
we're the same height actually, so it's fine. It's the way it should be.
Wait, we're at the same height in some alternate universe?